Hi, this is Craig Urquhart, and welcome to Berlin Conversations. Today I have the great honor to have my dear friend Malte Boecker here with me to talk about Beethoven 2020. Malte Boecker is the director of the Beethoven House in Bonn and the artistic director of the Beethoven Anniversary Beethoven 2020, which has been charged by the German government, the federal state of North Rhine-Westphalia, and the city of Bonn to coordinate and market the Beethoven Anniversary. Before his current position, Malte worked for the Bertelsmann Foundation and at the manager's office of Weimar 1999 European Cultural Capital. There he oversaw the foundation of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, consisting of Arab and Israeli musicians, initiated by Daniel Barenboim and Edward Said. Hi, Malte. Welcome.
Thanks.
So, how did you get into classical music?
Oh, that's a long story. I started playing the piano as a kid, went to many concerts. I think I saw many of the great pianists and conductors in the 70s and 80s. And then I attended the Schleswig-Holstein Music Festival in 1988. Mm-hmm. And we both remember that's where we met. And I was, I think, at the rehearsal of the Songfest. We were sitting in a little barn, and Lenny conducted the...
Bar or barn?
Barn.
Scheune.
Scheune.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And Lenny conducted the soloists of the Songfest, and we got to meet, and this was the starting point for many encounters that we had all over Europe, and it made me believe that music can change a lot in society. It changed at least a lot for me personally, these meetings, and I felt I would like to study music, so I picked up musicology as a second study next to my law examinations. And in the end, I became interested in everything in this area of music management, and I think that was the starting point of my career.
And you actually spent time with Bernstein in Bonn during the Beethoven Festival in 1988 or 89?
89.
And isn't it interesting that you're now running the Beethoven House in Bonn? Yeah.
Well, I think nobody would have told me at that time. Lenny was artist in residence, I think, of the Beethoven Festival on the invitation of Dennis Russell Davis.
Correct. Yeah.
And there were many Bernstein-related concerts and, of course, a lot of Beethoven. I really well remember the performances of the piano concertos with Christian Zimmermann. And unforgettable was a performance of the Seventh Symphony. I think even Lenny spoke about this particular performance with Vienna Philharmonic. Unfortunately, it was not recorded at the time.
No, I remember that performance too. It was like the roof had flown off the concert hall. It was so amazing.
It was really amazing. And I had this... I was asked by Lenny, to put it that way, I was asked by Lenny to try to protect him from all the people coming backstage after the concert, but I totally failed because there was so much enthusiasm in the room. And I really remember that particular concert. I swore myself I don't want to hear the Seventh Symphony again after that concert. I had that same feeling a few months later when I attended the Ninth in Berlin, the famous performance of Ode to Freedom. For many years I didn't attend concerts including the Seventh or Ninth Symphony by Beethoven, but in the end, as director now of the Beethoven House, I had, of course, other concerts.
Yeah,
now.
I do understand about not wanting to hear the Seventh or the Ninth again for a long time myself. I went through that too. Next year is going to be very busy for the Beethoven House, as it is the Beethoven 2020. Could you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Yes, indeed. We are going to have a major celebration. I always call it our little Beethoven birthday bash. Bonn is going to celebrate from December this year, 2019, until December 2020, a full year of events with actors and partners from all over the world. The main idea is that we would like to encourage and invite people to rediscover Beethoven anew. Everybody thinks everything has been said to Beethoven, but we believe there's so much to discover, and so we present many different kinds of projects, and we believe that through this there will be a kind of multi-perspectivity on Beethoven, where everybody, somebody who never heard classical music before or the total Beethoven expert, can find new angles and perspectives. And it'll start on the 16th of December this year with the presentation of 2 new exhibitions, one at the Beethoven House and one at the Federal Art Hall, the Bundeskunsthalle. It's a huge exhibition space with 1,600 square meters, with loans from all over the world. It will be really a must-have exhibition for everybody who loves classical music and wants to learn about Beethoven. And it will end with a concert 1 year later in Bonn with the West Eastern Divan Orchestra under the baton of Daniel Barenboim, a full European youth choir that we formed specifically for this event. So I think there's a big range of activities and a huge invitation for everybody to find his personal approach to Beethoven.
It sounds very exciting. It's great. And I'm also interested, from my point of view, I understand you're going to be doing an exhibit about Bernstein and Beethoven?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, this relates, of course, to the experiences I personally had in 1989 in Bonn. And I might be wrong, but I think that the general understanding is that Bernstein is the Mahler conductor. So if you talk about Bernstein, you immediately start talking about the way he rediscovered Gustav Mahler's music and his engagement for this composer. But of course it's true, but at the same time he had been very engaged also for Beethoven's music throughout his life. And I started reading many texts that he wrote on Beethoven. One dates back to the 40s, and it's an imagined story where he travels the Rocky Mountains with I think with his brother.
It was with his brother.
And in this text he writes about a conversation that they had where the question was, why it is always Beethoven you are talking about when you talk about classical music? And Lenny develops a kind of explanation, and the text ends with his finding that while Beethoven did a lot of unusual things in his music, unexpected twists and turns, once you heard these, they are so compelling that you cannot listen to the music in any other way. And I think this is an explanation that he used throughout his career. In the 70s, when he did a major Beethoven project in Vienna, when he wrote texts about Beethoven, when he gave lectures in the Omnibus series. So we really want to, in this little exhibition that we are doing, we really want to give the whole picture of how Beethoven was used by Lenny, what he told about him, and we ask the question, is this still the way we see Beethoven today? Has he left some footprint in the way we perceive Beethoven? And my strong belief is that Bernstein was the biggest communicator on classical music and on Beethoven. And there's a lot to learn from how he spoke about Ludwig van Beethoven.
That sounds very, very interesting. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with. You're also in partnership with the Haus der Musik in Vienna on that?
Yes, they collaborate with us and want to take over some of the exhibition objects that we bring to Bonn. So there's a little bridge between the two Beethoven cities, Bonn and Vienna.
Excellent. Sounds really great. Is there anything else you want to share about Beethoven 2020?
Well, I think there was a lot to be learned from the Bernstein anniversary. I think the Bernstein estate did extremely well with this anniversary. I think it was highly successful, and it was a pleasure to see the legacy that Lenny left behind. And I think we have similar questions to answer with the anniversary that we are planning. And I really hope that people understand that Beethoven is nothing that's over, but that's still relevant, and that there's so much to discover. Let alone, I mean, if you just look on the symphonies performed in concerts and the music performed in concerts, it's a very narrow part of the 400 works that Beethoven wrote. It's always the chamber music that has names. It's the third, the fifth, and the seventh symphony, the ninth, and then it's really getting very. The repertoire is really getting thin. That's frequently performed. So I think there's a lot to discover, and I hope we make many people curious to learn more, and maybe also to engage more in music playing and music performing themselves.
It sounds wonderful. Who are some of the artists that you'll be presenting?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of outstanding artists from the professional classical music world. I mentioned Daniel Barenboim, Sir Simon Rattle. You have the big pianists and chamber musicians. The Catoë Ben will be in Bonn. So I don't want to name these. I think many of those that you expect will be involved. But it's interesting that we could engage artists from other fields to think about Beethoven. And I think that's always the most productive encounter, if you take somebody who is an artist in another field and then reacts to Beethoven's music. So I would like to mention, for instance, there's a award winner in the field of painting and sculpture, visual arts, Jeremy Deller, who won the Turner Prize. And he's doing a show in Bonn at the Kunstverein about the young Beethoven. And nobody knows what will be the outcome of this. But this is what I like, that we try to shed new lights on Beethoven and not just do performances of his music.
That's, I think, a wonderful idea, because his music is as relevant today as it was when he wrote it. And it's a universal language, and it's very interesting to re-examine it at this time. As you said, it's not about getting performances. It's about understanding why Beethoven. So is there a website where people can go to?
Yes, we have a logo that's a bit unusual. It refers to a signature that Beethoven used, where he skipped the vowels. So it's not Beethoven, but BTHVN. So he skipped the E and the O. And our website is BTHVN2020.de. And the logo is Beethoven 2020 in an abbreviated version. And once you've seen it, you will always identify it once you see it.
Excellent. So, well, thank you so much, Malte, for being here, and I wish you luck. And
thank you.
I'm sure it'll be a wonderful time, and I look forward to spending a lot of time in Bonn next year.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.